Hi, everyone. I am Zach Wright. I'm the CEO and founder of retailMetrix, and I just wanted to introduce our new monthly update video series. Going forward in the series, we're going to fill you in on all the new features and what we're working on here at retailMetrix. But for this first one, I just wanted to start off by introducing ourselves as founders and our product, retailMetrix.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. My name's George. I'm a fourth generation grocer. I'm the marketing director for retailMetrix, and I'm excited to be here as well. So Zach, you got to give me a little bit of a background. What kind of got you into data-driven decisions, creating products, and, servicing, the grocery industry?
Yeah, so I've spent my entire career, about 12 years, working in the grocery industry, specifically in software development and data analysis kind of roles. So I actually didn't start retailMetrix as a company to try and sell to others. I started building the product to use internally at my family's 11-store grocery chain. Basically, it all started with a spreadsheet that we were kind of manually updating. We were pulling our sales data on a department level from a bunch of different places and putting together a spreadsheet. And I noticed there was a lot of pain points. It was taking a lot of time, and there was a lot of issues with accuracy. So what I started doing, the first thing I did was added a button to the spreadsheet that pulled the data directly from the database. That was about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've gone through multiple revisions, and now we have built retailMetrix, which is a web, Android, and iOS app that can show you your sales and labor data all the way down to the item level.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the story that kind of got you into it, I'm curious if you could share a little bit about like your guys' family grocery store chain. And I guess, is it your grandpa that like kind of planted the seed with this, where it's like he got in the industry and then they based it off data?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my grandfather started what is now Market of Choice in the 1970s. He was a grocery store manager before saving up and purchasing his first store. Throughout the 70s and 80s, he bought stores that were failing. And then what he did was he paid attention to his sales, his labor, and his gross margin. And he basically used those data insights to turn these stores around. And then he would either sell or sometimes keep the stores. So I remember as a kid going into my grandpa's office, and this is way before we had computers in the office, and he would be recording basically his sales and his labor dollars on a paper spreadsheet. So yeah, I knew how important and learned how important in a tight margin industry like the grocery industry it is to really have a firm grasp of how you're doing sales wise and labor wise. So that's something that I kind of learned from him. And then, as I evolved in my career, I brought Market of Choice different ways to utilize that data and made it easy and easier to get.
That's awesome. It's cool that I guess it's that generational grocery family operation. And I think that's very similar for me too. I mean, with the experience of being a grocer, it's so cool to be part of something that's, I feel like a lot of times this community is small. You don't meet everyone that has a grocery store on a daily basis. It's pretty rare, but being a grocer and then developing a product like retailMetrix, then analyzing the margins and analyzing the pricing is like super essential, especially with our gross margins and profit margins so small compared to, the retail space. With was there like a particular location that you remember like growing up in and then going to those stores, or is it kind of all over Oregon?
Yeah, our stores are all over Oregon, but I remember going to our Highway 99 location, which has been closed for a number of years now. It was a scrappy operation back then, actually. I remember going into the office where my dad and grandpa worked, and they would use makeshift tables as desks. Everything was on paper back then. But we were always really paying attention to the sales, really paying attention to the data. And back then it was all on kind of like paper spreadsheets. So I have fond memories of going to the stores. And then when we opened our kind of what is now our flagship location, the 29th and Willamette store that we have, I remember as a kid kind of helping set the shelves for opening. A lot's changed in the grocery industry since then, but the basic principles kind of remain the same, which is, you have to really know your sales, you have to know your labor percentages, and then your gross margins to make it all work.
And okay, so like with the family operation, where was like that benchmark when you guys had one and then you guys kind of started adding? Because I feel like retailMetrix has been an awesome tool that now that my family's grocery store chain's on it, it's like we know what sales, what comparison between different operations and what everyone's doing now with just few clicks. And it's cool to hear, like my brother sending screenshots of retailMetrix, and he's like, you guys need to start implementing this at your store, or like vice versa for my siblings. But what was kind of like that threshold? Because I feel like retailMetrix is really, it helps open the eyes and gives you a bird's eye view to the operations. But what kind of was like that momentum where you're like, we're creating it for our family operation, and then it's like, now we want to help other grocers, but kind of like what stage was retailMetrix kind of evolving in? Or
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's actually harder to have 2 stores than it is to have 10 stores, because you're at that point where you're so used to, when you have maybe one location, you can really keep track of everything, what's going on, and you're able to kind of just do it by instinct and by being there all the time. But as your chain starts to grow to 2 stores, 3 stores, 4 stores, you lose, the ability to be at all the stores all the time. You lose the ability to just have that natural insight of being there all the time, yet you don't maybe have all the tools and processes in place that a 10-store chain would have. So I think that retailMetrix can really help those kind of growing chains that are trying to look towards what the bigger guys are doing and trying to, evolve and just grow their operations into having the processes that those larger chains have, but are kind of starting from, just a few stores and growing up.
That's awesome. What made you like want to help other grocers? Because I feel like sometimes it's like, I think like with my family operations, like we want to help other family businesses in Riverside and like try to collaborate. I mean, like, not saying we're against Target or anything, but like now all these like retail stores are opening up grocery within them, and then how do you compete with them? So what was like that motivation where you're like, okay, like we're doing successful for marketed choice, we're really helping, and then it was like, what made you want to share it with Goodwin's Organics?
I've always been such a believer in small business. I believe that small businesses treat their employees better, they help their communities more. And, as I see Kroger's, the Walmarts, the Targets of the world take over, I just want to see independent grocery thrive. There's just something about going into an independent grocery store. For me, that's where my roots are. And I just want to see that industry thrive. And right now it's harder and harder with everything going on in the industry. So I just want to be able to offer something to the independents and help out the independent grocers.
I think it's like because like that family businesses were like the basis of communities. I feel like a lot of times, like even during like COVID, my family store was like, people were coming and we were just like wanting to help people, and they were like coming to us. And I think that was an area where it was like, we dropped off like hand sanitizer wipes to the bank, or like to like different other local businesses that were like also like staying open. But I think that is kind of maybe that, I don't know, that community basis of where you're from and you want to support other grocers. But I think it's been cool seeing like some of the new customers that are on this platform using it and enjoying it and like telling us their highlights. Literally before the call, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with this buddy, but he's like happy with the product, sharing about like
just pulling some item kind of level reports, looking at his margin by product and making sure that his pricing is all set correctly. So it's as simple as making these reports and this information that every grocer needs to know, making them easy to get to, easy to pull, and easy to look at. I like to think that our app is really beautifully designed and modern. And sometimes in this industry, you don't always see modern, nice looking and nicely working software. So I just thought that there was a big opportunity to provide that to the independents.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I would say like that is, I feel like the grocery community is very like, it's, there's so many different ages in this group and the sector, and especially with like the family industry. I noticed like my brothers want to make their mark, but then we also have, you know, these historical ways of doing particular things. And I think in all our stores, we actually have a checklist from my grandpa who kind of got us in this industry or kind of expanding. It's like 12 things you do when you get to the store: walk the ground of the whole store, you know, look at and face anything before, you know, the load or like a load or anything like this, or like say hi to and with a smile, like simple things like that. And then it's like at the end of it, it's like, now go look at sales, go look at reporting, see what you need to, you know, what products are moving, and then basket size, customer count. And it's cool to see this all within, you know, I love the app. I like to use the app. And I think on the marketing side, it's been nice to be like, what are our top movers in like a blink of a click, you know, and being able to see, you know, what products are moving and how to compare it to other stores. With kind of going forward, you know, we're going to try to start doing these monthly updates, but what are some things that we're excited about, that you're excited about to share? That's, you know, like coming back from like the grocer standpoint, what they should be excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that like you made an important point there that we're just, we're taking the wisdom, you know, of all the people in the grocery industry that have come before us, and we're just trying to modernize that a little bit and make it a little bit, you know, easier to digest. You know, we're not trying to invent the wheel. We're just trying to optimize and streamline it a little bit, make it a little bit easier to run these item level reports, to make sure that your margins are set correctly, and just to start finding some trends within the data that, you know, we have. And one of my favorite things to do with customers is, you know, beyond just our basic platform, is to say, hey, let's do some data insight, and let's see if we can find some trending categories, some trending items, you know, that might get lost in these giant data sets, and you know, take those categories that are trending and really invest in those. And you know, if you can improve your product mix a little bit, that can go a long ways.
Yeah, and I think even like just bringing more awareness to knowing your numbers, I think is so essential for any store really to like, I I recently we wrote a blog post and it was about like, you know, managing a store without knowing your numbers is like a chicken running around with its head cut off. And I'm like, it kind of is that. Like we don't sometimes have like our team knowing what's going on the sales. And I think it is something that like, you know, maybe we don't always want to share sales with everyone or every employee, but really allowing our teams know what benchmark, what goals, and having that capability of seeing the produce sales to another store is encouraging, because they're like, oh, I'm in growing my sales. And it's, you know, creating this like energy where it's data driven decisions. Is this produce item going to sell more if it's, you know, paired with, you know, a little promo, or, you know, as if it's placed on, you know, this side of the rack or this side of the store. But really enabling like that wisdom that, you know, as a fourth generation grocer, those tips and tricks that are just like embedded. You know, on 4th of July, I'm bagging groceries to labor cost, and we're doing labor integration and all these different things that we're going to bring to the table for the grocery space, which I'm super excited that it's also very user friendly. I think this is super exciting for me. I think one of the biggest things that I want to reinforce is kind of something what you said. We're just taking all that knowledge and condensing it in a way that's creating actionable items for, you know, your team and your operations, for the chain grocers to compete with Kroger's, the Targets, the Walmarts, and giving more tools.
And just one point in there I'd like to expand on a little bit is, you know, you said you don't always necessarily want to share all of your sales reporting with, you know, say you have a meat manager at one store, you may not want him to see the entire, you know, store's sales, but being able to give them access to their items within their department, you know, that way you're not oversharing data, you're not oversharing information, but you can make sure that the things that they're responsible for, they really know inside and out. And that's one great thing about our platform is we allow you to kind of lock down your information. So those that need to know are in the know, and those that, you know, don't.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it really like that feature is super important because it allows them to even work with the other meat manager at another operations or see sales if you want to see sales or limit their accessibility to the different numbers. But if the sales manager for the meat department doesn't know the best sellers or doesn't know what's going to sell on 4th of July versus last year, how can he optimize and improve the store? I think that's super great point. Awesome. And I think overall, our goal is really just to help the grocer and to see other grocers succeed and even hear your guys' stories. I think our goal is really, being in a community that's so, supporting of other communities with food, telling other grocery stories or learning how our product is supporting others is going to be a great experience. And I'm super excited to build this company and even have a way for other grocers to tell their story. Zach, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I think that basically sums it up. So, if there's any grocers out there that are interested in our product or just want to chat, feel free to get in contact and we'd love to help you in any way we can.